Welcome to the deep dive. Today we've got a really fascinating deep dive for you, focused right in on a specific date, October 6th, 2025. We're zooming in on the massive energy surge around a really key celestial moment, the full moon in Aries.
That's right. We've been digging into two pretty compelling sources here. We've got the astrology of the day breakdown and also this great mythological narrative from the StoryScope, specifically one called The Shattering of Chains.
Hmm.
Both are from Tarot by High C. And our mission, really, is to give you the essential shortcuts, the nuggets, to understand not just what this powerful moment is, but more importantly, what this very focused kind of fiery energy is actually asking of you in your own life.
Okay, let's unpack that, because we are dealing with a powerful event. The sources even call this full moon in Aries an astrological climax. So if we look at the basic mechanics, what makes this full moon in Aries on this specific date so much more intense than, just any old full moon? Why call it an extreme energy surge?
Well, the timing is really fascinating here. A full moon naturally brings things to light, brings issues to a head. But this one, it's the direct closing argument for the whole lunar cycle that kicked off with that intense new moon solar eclipse back on September 21st. We sometimes forget, I think, that while the eclipse itself is like the big shocking event, the full moon that follows, that's the powerful reaction, or maybe the point of no return.
Right, so the stakes are automatically higher just because there's eclipse energy still echoing around it. But can you explain the specific mechanism? Like, why does following an eclipse make any action feel so, I don't know, fated? Or irreversible, like the sources hint?
Yeah, well, when energy gets amplified by an eclipse, it just carries this extra weight, kind of destiny vibe, maybe, that isn't really there in your standard lunar cycle. So any decision, any action you take under that kind of pressure, it's not something you can easily just undo later. It sticks. The internal stuff, the conflicts, the choices, any sudden aha moments that got triggered during that really high voltage eclipse season, they've basically reached a breaking point, a crisis or climax right now. The universe is essentially forcing your hand. The moon's light isn't just revealing things, it's demanding quick resolution now.
Okay, and then you layer the raw, like, initiating fire of Aries onto that pressure cooker situation. What kind of outcome should you, the listener, maybe brace for? What makes this full moon push different from, say, a full moon in Libra, which is usually its opposite sign, more about balance, right?
Exactly. Aries is sign number one. It's all about the self, getting things started, taking immediate action. It's not like Libra, which wants to weigh things up, negotiate, and it's not like Sagittarius, which might seek philosophical freedom. Aries wants physical and energetic liberation, like breaking the chains right now. So the sources, they point to a really high likelihood of sudden stuff, surprising events, maybe new developments popping up or things being revealed unexpectedly. Internally, the feeling is just intense restlessness, almost frantic. The main psychological urge is going to be to act impulsively, to break something that feels like it's holding you back.
That definitely sounds like a recipe for some dramatic, spontaneous changes. But we should probably address the potential downside here, shouldn't we? Aries energy, it's famously impatient, can even lean towards aggression sometimes. So how do we make sure this really strong urge to act, this leap of faith the source talks about, isn't just, well, destructive or a big mistake we instantly regret? Yeah, and that is the crucial distinction we need to highlight in this deep dive. The energy isn't just saying break something. It's asking you to break the restriction. The really strong urge baked into this moment. It's the need for freedom. It's pushing for liberation from limitations that are genuinely stopping you from evolving, from moving into your next phase. The sources are pretty clear. The leap needs to be aimed at going after your desires with a kind of fervor, enough passion to push past those old internal boundaries you've had for ages.
Okay, so the impulse isn't meant to be random chaos. It's actually targeted, right at the deepest source of your personal stagnation. It's about breaking that habit of waiting for permission, or waiting for the perfect moment that, let's be honest, probably never shows up. Precisely. And if you connect that to the bigger picture, the core instruction here is really about embracing that leap of faith as the mechanism, as the way forward. Because the boundaries we face, so often they're self-imposed, aren't they? Built out of fear or just routine or staying in our comfort zone. This Aries energy is pushing for motion. It makes that internal restriction feel so unbearable that taking action becomes the only way to, release the pressure valve. It's a moment where action is definitely favored over getting stuck in endless, paralyzing thought.
It almost sounds like the universe is shouting, okay, time's up for the pro and con list, grab the hammer or the car keys or, write that resignation letter.
That's a really good way to put it, actually.
Yeah.
The intensity makes sure that whatever action you do take now feels final, definitive, sometimes even irreversible, which is exactly why the sources call it a climax. And that's why the restless energy is so powerful. It's designed to push you, the listener, from just sitting there into actually starting something, from inertia to initiation.
We've talked quite a bit about that feeling, haven't we? The stagnation, that internal tug of war between impulse and hesitation. And this work gets really interesting. The StoryScope source, the shattering of chains, it gives us this perfect little story, a narrative shortcut to understanding why this kind of impulse is seen as, well, divine, or at least necessary.
Yeah, it really grounds it, doesn't it? Myths have this way of personifying these big, volatile celestial ideas. Makes the energetic blueprint much more memorable and easier to apply to yourself.
So let's look at how the source describes Selara, the silver-eyed moon goddess. She's not painted as some pale, passive watcher. No, she's a living force. Her light actually stirs courage. And crucially, she wasn't just noticing external problems like oppression. She saw that people's hearts were chained up by internal things, specifically self-doubt and the, quote, iron of hesitation.
Right. Selara saw that the world had gotten kind of weary, fearful, always putting off their own potential. They hadn't just forgotten how to act, they'd forgotten why they should bother acting in the first place. So she needed an agent, someone embodying raw, unfiltered will. She goes to the Forge of the Gods, apparently, where Aries defined here as the ram of fire, and Will was just, like, slumbering in this mountain of ember and stone. She wakes him up precisely because the world had forgotten about impulse, the sacred fire.
And this sets up their divine pact, which feels really key to understanding the vibe of October 6th. What were their specific jobs in this big, orchestrated moment of liberation?
They set up this division of labor, designed to be almost inescapably motivating, Selara promised she would rise full, totally brilliant, and by doing that, she would magnify the will of everyone, basically making those deep, often buried desires impossible to ignore any longer. Then Aries, the ram, he would stride unseen through the world, kindling this powerful restlessness in every soul, like an almost aching hunger for release.
Okay, so the full moon provides the clarity, makes the desire huge and obvious, and Aries provides that uncomfortable kinetic push, that energy that forces the first step. It's like an internal combustion engine, isn't it? Fueled by moonlight and fire.
Exactly. And to really show how this works, the StoryScope zooms in on one particular person, Kale, the blacksmith.
Right, Kale's story. This feels vital because it really defines what we're supposed to be breaking free from. What exactly were his chains? The source is specific, isn't it?
Oh, very specific and emphatic. His chains weren't metal, they were regret, forged from this mix of inaction and just putting things off, procrastination. Kale had this deep, burning dream, right, to find the legendary lost forge of creation, supposedly somewhere beyond the cliffs of dawn. But he kept delaying the journey, always telling himself tomorrow. He was basically trapped by a future he never actually let arrive.
Wow. That's maybe the most subtle chain there is, isn't it? The chain of tomorrow. Let's just pause on that for a sec. If you, listening, feel that intense Aries restlessness building up, it might be directly tied to some long-delayed purpose you haven't addressed, just like Kale's quest.
That is the direct application, absolutely. The sources seem to imply that if the energy feels overwhelming, its pressure is probably proportional to how long you've been carrying that regret. This moment just forces that weight right up to the surface. So when Selara's light finally hits Kale's anvil, the StoryScope describes this huge event.
Describe that climax for us. What happened right when Selara's light connected with his anvil?
Okay, so the anvil just blazes up like a brand new star, and Kale feels this profound burden just shatter inside him. The sound of this internal break, it apparently rang out across the valley as a bell tolling for destiny. And it wasn't physical, He broke the shackles of his hesitation with one single defining swing of his hammer, that swing. That was the end of his regret and the absolute beginning of his purpose.
And Aries is right there, confirming that this immediate impulsive act is the exact mechanism needed for liberation.
Absolutely. Aries is watching, nods, confirms this moment is the start of the leap of faith. And as Kale starts climbing those cliffs, just burning with purpose, the chains he'd shattered, the ones inside, they literally melted into pure light, rising up towards the moon like offerings. His instantaneous action became like a divine transaction, proof of his will.
And then the final word comes from Selara herself, declaring what this moment means for everyone watching, for all mortals.
Yes, she declares this the moon of liberation, and she promises two key things that really define the energy of October 6th. For those who act in faith, I magnify their fire, and for those who break their chains, I open the heavens. It basically solidified this full moon in Aries as the ultimate deadline for self-imposed limits, the moment of peak courage.
Okay, so if we pull it all together, the astrological pressure that eclipsed climax, the Aries fire, and we merge it with Kale's story, the mythological imperative. What is the single most important takeaway for you, the listener, on October 6th, 2025?
I think the sources combine to give a really cohesive instruction, actually. The climax energy of October 6th. It's a high-stakes, maybe even divine invitation. The goal is to act on impulse, but not blindly, decisively, to break those cycles of regret and hesitation that have kept you from your next phase. That intense restlessness you're likely to feel, it's not chaos. It's Aries kindling that hunger for release,
Yeah.
pushing you towards your real, authentic potential.
Absolutely. The sudden developments, the restless energy, it seems explicitly designed to push you towards making Kale's choice, to finally break the chain of tomorrow.
Mm.
This moment is really asking you to stop just dreaming about your purpose and actually start doing something about it, initiate it.
Right. So maybe we leave you with one final challenging thought to explore on your own. Given this intense, liberating energy that's all about shattering hesitation, consider the most profound, maybe the most defining dream or goal you've consistently pushed off into the future. What specific risk or commitment have you kept saying tomorrow to? What immediate, small, but definitive action could you take right now? An action that treats that dream like an offering to this moon of liberation. Just something to think about.